what is the purpose or benefit of a REIT?
Yeah, so that's a good place to start is, what is this REIT and, where did this come from? And REIT is actually an acronym, REIT, for Real Estate Investment Trust. And REITs were created by Congress and supported by the IRS as a way for investment companies to not have double taxation. So a REIT, one of the unique things is if as long as we distribute 90% plus of our earnings on an annual basis back to investors, then the REIT itself doesn't pay any tax. Only the investors pay those on your capital gains or distributions, which is great.
For everyone.
For everyone, yes. Because typically most corporations actually have what's called double taxation. So a typical C Corp, like Apple, the entity has to pay tax first, and then it distributes dividends to investors, and now those investors pay taxes on those dividends separately. Yeah. So a REIT is a really unique thing. It's very common in owning commercial properties to hold them in a REIT, especially if you plan to hold them long term, and if those properties are generating cash flow for the investors. So we spent quite a bit of time, about a year and a half, deciding what the structure of this next phase of our offerings to our investors would be, and this is where we landed is to offer a REIT. And then the other key thing about the NV REIT is that we're planning to hold our properties for quite a while, 10 plus years. And these properties are properties that have already gone through the renovation, stabilization, lease up, and cash flow cycle. So they're already generating cash flow for investors. And that's different than if you go invest in an asset that needs to be renovated, where there's going to be turnover in the tenants. Those projects don't generate cash flow for a period of time. Sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's a couple of years. So the assets that the REIT will hold will all be cash flowing
right away.
Whole stabilized assets.
Yes.
And those are the ones that we're going to acquire. Only multifamily assets. So we have done.
We're very picky.
Yeah, we did.
We have standards.
With this, we're defining that right now. We have done retail project before, but we're not going to do anything except multifamily in the REIT.
Heather, so how is this different than investing in an individual project?
So I know a lot about our individual projects.
Yes.
And so our individual projects, I think, are a great way to, first of all, get to know our company, get to know the cycle of a project. They know everything that goes into it. And they can test us out. And then here's this project that's working for them, and then we go and sell it. And here's a way to still participate in that project. Once it's sold, you're still going to be earning your cash flow. So typically our projects, right, we purchase them, we renovate. Once they're stabilized and cash flowing, then we sell them, we say goodbye. But with the REIT, we get to hold on to those and still generate cash flow.
No, that's great. And that's actually part of why we created the REIT, is because a lot of our investors said, well, why are you selling these properties that you've done all this work and you've repositioned them and now they're in these great neighborhoods and now you sell them to someone else?
Yeah.
And that's why we created the REIT. That's part of the reason. Yeah.
I get attached to them. I get a little sad.
And it's we're not going to put every asset that we have into the REIT, but the ones that perform really well. So we kind of get a cherry pick a little bit, and we say, which ones do we want to hold long term? So these are the assets that we expect to see increased appreciation in the value broader than the general market, because of the neighborhood they're in, because of the things that we're seeing in the city that they're in, because of the location. Real estate is local. So to understand what it's going to do and to invest wisely, you need to have a local understanding that's deeply local. And that's how we make these decisions. Which of these assets do we think will continue to go up? And the ones that we like will hold in the REIT.
Well, are we allowed to talk about the REIT's first acquisition?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've just announced this.
Just between you and I and whoever's listening.
I'm just
No,
eavesdropping.
it's no, that's public.
Yeah.
We've announced our first acquisition will be our Williams project, Venture on Williams, and that is an asset that we've really liked.
Yep.
You know, we did renovate it. It has these really cool architectural arches in the front. A lot of people, when they saw it, they said, "Oh, that's a really neat building. It's unique," and we felt the same way. But from a ownership standpoint, we really like the units, what we call the unit mix. There's 2-bedroom,
And they're large.
2-bath, and 3-bed, 2-bath, and they
Which
lease
is
up
hard to
very
find.
quick.
Well, we have an investor who is very smart, who on a call recently, she's like, I can guess. And she knew, and I didn't give it away, but she said, I know what your first purchase is
She
going to be.
assumed which one it would be.
Yeah, and she's like, because that's the one I would buy.
Yeah.
She's like, that's the one I would keep.
We actually had some
Yeah.
other investors right after we launched the offering that said, once you sell this,
Yeah.
we'd love to buy it.
They knew she was the beauty queen.
Yeah.
That was the winner. Yeah.
And it's certainly not the only one, but I think
They're all special in their own
it
way.
makes a lot of sense to hold this one
Yeah.
long term. You also look at the maintenance. You know, some buildings that are built in the 50s and 60s, they have old plumbing and old roofs. Some of these things end up costing a lot of money from a maintenance standpoint. And this building is like an 80s building, so it's a little bit newer, block construction.
As somebody from the 80s, I appreciate that. That's right. Put together a little better. There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah.
And then I think it's also important to talk about, we do plan as a company to also do some ground up projects.
Yeah. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, we have been planning to do this for a long time. You don't want to jump in too quick, but now is the time. You know, what's happening with the market with interest rates, we expect to see some good opportunities to go buy some raw land, build from the ground up.
And that's helped me to understand the REIT, because I would say before we started to create the REIT here, it's not a word I'd ever heard. It was a little intimidating. I thought, no, but our projects are so easy. They make iron. I've learned it. Let's keep that. But no, the more I've learned about, I've converted, and I see how these are. I like to think in a little marriage, they have fallen in love. Our individual projects and our REIT are joined together. I have to make it romantic for me. And even within the REIT, there's kind of two pieces to it that contribute to the return or the value that our investors are getting. That there's these two very important pieces working together.
Right.
Where these buildings that are this cash flow right away, that's where you're getting your monthly distribution. Our investors are seeing that. And then these other projects that are the ground up, the value add, where that 15% is going into the REIT. And that's so these are important things to put together, but they are separate.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a great mix and creates a great return.